Hey Alex, hey Anything Ghost listeners. My name is Eric. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I was hoping to share a story with you that I think will fit in well with the show. It may be a little different from most of the stories you're used to getting, but I think it's a story worth telling. It's more of the story of my friend Todd than my own story. And I have to say I've changed most of the names of the people involved, mainly because they're all still part of my daily life, and I wouldn't want them thinking or knowing that I was airing their dirty laundry. Anyway, I work for one of the largest healthcare companies in the West, and I work in a hospital. It's Utah's oldest hospital. I believe it's 100 plus years old. Our office is located on the second floor, directly above the emergency department. What my team and I do is we're part of an emergency medical dispatch team. So if someone is having a medical emergency and needs to contact their doctor, they go through us. We also contact the emergency rooms all night long, and we spend all our time connecting doctors to people who are in need of medical attention. Basically what we do, it's all over the phone. We're all stuck in one small room, and so we get to know each other pretty well. Our job is basically, there's two speeds. It's either utter chaos and complete confusion during our busy times, or it's completely dead during the slow times. So a lot of times we have to think of things to do to entertain ourselves during the downtime. I apologize if you're hearing a squeak. My dog's over there playing with one of her toys. My friend Todd was the one who introduced me to podcasts. I had no idea what a podcast was until he showed me what it was. And specifically, he let me know about Anything Ghost Show. He and I would listen to it together. We couldn't listen to it out loud. We had to listen to it each through our own headphones because the company policy is we can't have anything playing out loud, and also because we have some pretty skittish coworkers who probably wouldn't have enjoyed listening to the show. It would have freaked them out probably. So we'd listen to the podcast together during these slow times that I mentioned, and we'd hear the same one, and then we'd discuss it. We'd talk about which ones made our BS meters go off and which ones we really enjoyed, and paid special attention to anyone calling from Utah or Salt Lake, trying to figure out where they were calling from or what they were doing. I gotta say, I wouldn't say I'm a disbeliever in the paranormal or in ghosts. It's something I never have really given much thought to. I'm not a logical guy either. I'm not into ghosts, but I listened to it because it was entertaining and enjoyable. I enjoyed the stories, even if I didn't particularly believe them. And it gave me something to do that kind of connected me to my coworker, something we could talk about and do together. And it helped the time go by. It was an entertaining way to pass those slow times at work. One day about 18 months ago, it was during one of our very busy times, and my friend Todd pulled me aside and asked me if he could go home for the day. He said he wasn't feeling well. He had left early the day before, and he was kind of one of those guys that tended to leave early from work more often than he should. And we were extremely busy, so I told him honestly, I said, dude, I don't think you can go now. Is there any way you can stay till the end of your shift? And he wasn't very happy with that, but he agreed to do it and kind of sat down, didn't talk to me much for the rest of his shift. Obviously, he wasn't happy that I had asked him to stay. Our shift ended at 11 o'clock at night. That's generally when we have shift change. We all went home for the night. I was home a couple hours later. It was probably 3:30 in the morning. I was having a late dinner, which is my custom, unwinding from the day when I got a call from the hospital. And when someone calls from the hospital, it just shows on my phone that it's the hospital calling. It doesn't show which department or where. It's just a general number that comes through. But I, of course, assumed it was from my coworkers who had a question for me. It wasn't uncommon for them to call. They know they can call anytime except for between 7 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. That's when I sleep. And they know not to call me then, but pretty much any other time they call. So I pick up the phone and I'm helloing, not hearing anything in response. It's just kind of dead air. So I wonder what's going on. And I hang up and call back to my office and get one of my coworkers and I say, hey, what's going on? You guys need something? They said, no, we didn't call you. We didn't need you. And I thought, that's kind of weird. Somebody from the hospital called, but didn't think too much about it. I went back to my dinner and probably watching some TV, and my phone rang again. And this call was coming from Todd's phone, from my friend's phone. And it wasn't as common for people to call from their personal home numbers when they're not at work, but it's not unheard of. And I thought, maybe Todd needs something. So I answered, and once again, it was just dead air. It was, I'm hello, not hearing anything. So I figured he probably pocket dialed or, those things happen. I didn't call him back because I thought I'm not going to wake up his family and kids calling in the middle of the night. I thought if he needs something, he'll tell me about it later or he'll call back. And I hung up and forgot about it. Didn't think about these phone calls actually for months later. I'd completely forgotten about them for the next few months. I was sound asleep the next morning. It was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and my phone rings again and wakes me up. Now, people, everyone, my friends, family, coworkers, they all know not to call me during the morning because that's my sleeping time. The only person who would call me during this time is my own boss, and she would only call if it was something important. So I answered, and sure enough, it was my boss. I answered the call, and I'm half asleep, and she says, "Eric, are you sitting down?" I'm laying down. I sound asleep, but yeah, what's going on? She said that the night before, Todd had left work and gone home and was complaining to his wife about abdominal pains. He tried to sleep and couldn't sleep. So I guess he really was sick, and she finally convinced him to go back to the emergency room. So about 2 hours after he left work, he was back in the very same hospital, in the room right below where he had been working. And 2 hours after that, they pronounced him dead. He had had an aneurysm in the arteries of his spleen, and he had internal bleeding that they couldn't stop, and he was pronounced dead there that very morning. I was in shock. We all were. He was 32 years old. He left behind a wife and 2 little kids. Just couldn't believe he was gone. It was just such a blow to the whole team. And right then I knew that I was not going to let anyone know that he had asked if he could leave earlier the night before. But I thought a lot about it. Wondering what would have happened if I had let him go, if I had said, "Yeah, dude, take off." If he had gone to the emergency room sooner, could they have done anything? Could anything have been changed? Some things you can't think about too much, though, because they'll drive you crazy. I'm kind of a fixer. When I see something's wrong, I like to fix it, and this couldn't be fixed. It was what it was, and it happened. And so I hid the story. I didn't tell anybody about what had happened, and I tried not to think too much about it. Well, time went on like it will. We hired new employees, a replacement for Tom and some others, people who didn't know him, and we all remembered him still, and we grieved for him still, but we talked about him less and less as time went by, and pretty soon, we quit sharing our favorite Tom stories. I'm calling him by his real name. I apologize. I'm not Todd, but I don't know that I'll change it. His name's Tom. His name was Tom. Before I go a lot further, I have to kind of describe the office where we work. We're located on the second floor, as I mentioned, and it's the only non-patient floor in the hospital, so there's no patients there. Just a ton of offices where a bunch of people work. The cafeteria is also on the second floor. So during the day, it's a very busy place with all these people coming and going from the hospital and from the cafeteria. We're kind of tucked into the very, very middle of it, kind of in the end of a maze is our little office. Most people don't even know we're there. But everyone goes home at 5 or 6 at night. They're not there on the weekends. The cafeteria is not open on the weekends, so there's no housekeeping. There's no one there on the weekends. So it's just us, tucked away in our little corner with 7 floors of patient care going on above us and the bustling emergency room underneath us. And us on this totally deserted, empty floor. It's kind of like a ghost town. I don't know if you've ever been in a house in the middle of a city. Sometimes people have those houses that are kind of tucked into little pockets, and you feel like you're out in the country or something, when in reality you're just a block from the busy city blocks or busy city streets. That's what it felt like. We were just tucked away, and it was quite lonely on our floor during the weekends and at night. We were the only ones there. Nobody had any reason to come to the floor but us. We were working on it as a Sunday afternoon, maybe about four months ago. And there are 3 of us working. We carry a very light load on the weekends, so we kind of have a skeleton crew. It's usually just 3 or 4 people. And there were 3 of us that afternoon, myself and my coworker Joey and another gal. And we were manning the phones. And because our policy is that 2 people have to be on the phones at all time, only one person can be out of the room at any given time. So we have to take turns coming and going. Again, I apologize for the squeak. It's my dog playing with the toys. Anyway, toward the evening, I had gotten really thirsty and decided to go for a drink. So I'd wandered out and left my coworkers manning the phones, and I'd gone down to the vending machine, put my quarters in, and the drink, it seems like it always happens, especially to me, starts to come out and it gets stuck on the glass. The drink doesn't fall out, it won't dispense. And I'm frustrated, I'm kind of pounding on the glass a little bit, try to shake the machine, but it's bolted to the floor. I'm doing this when I hear this voice right behind me, this male voice, and it says, "Well, that sucks." And at first I'm embarrassed. I think, oh man, who's watching me, in my futile attempt to shake this drink loose. I look around and there's nobody there. I was thinking about it. I thought, wow, it would be very difficult for someone to walk up to me. It's a silent, quiet, empty, deserted hall, so there's no way to sneak up on anybody. I look around the corner and nobody's there. I wonder if somebody's, ducked into the elevator, which is right across from the vending machine, but I hadn't heard the doors open or a ding or anything. I hadn't heard a thing except for that voice saying, "Well, that sucks." So I thought, that's really weird. But like I said, I'm just not a paranormal type guy. It doesn't come into my head that, oh man, this must be a ghost. In fact, someone would have had to have pointed it out to me. Maybe it was a ghost for the thought to even enter my head. And I was actually completely forgot about the voice by the time I got back to the office. I got another drink, wasted another $1.50, and was back in the office. Sorry about that, Lex. I paused and went and removed all squeaky toys from my dog's scraps, so hopefully that won't be bothering us anymore. I apologize for that. Anyway, in your words, carrying on, I got back to the office, and about a half hour later, maybe 45 minutes later, my coworker Joey gets up to use the restroom. And she's barely gone, just a few seconds, when she comes rushing back into the room. And she's completely shaken like I've never seen. She's pale and shaking, and slams the door behind her. What's going on, Sammy? What's going on, Joey? What's the problem? She says that she had gone and walked down to the bathroom. I was just opening the door to go in when in this empty hall right behind her, she hears a voice, a male voice, just like I had heard, that said, "I can see you." This totally freaks her out. She panics and bolts into the bathroom. She's fumbling with the lock, trying to shut the door, lock herself in, and she hears a voice from inside the bathroom, right behind her. And this one said, "I'm in here too." She said it was like a giggling, laughing male voice that said, "I'm in here too." And she bolted from the bathroom that she'd been trying to barricade herself in and went running down the hall and slammed herself back into the room. And she gets back and she's telling the story, and it reminds me of what I had heard, the voice that I had heard by the vending machine. And I tell him, "Wow, that's funny, and tell him what had happened to me." And then we get ourselves all riled up, how it is. We're half scared, half excited, giggling like little girls at a slumber party telling these stories. And somehow, I don't know which one of us thought of it. It wasn't me. So one of the other two decided that one of us should take our video recorders on our telephone and go walk the halls and see if we could catch anything on tape. And somehow I got recruited to do it. I probably volunteered just for an excuse to get out of the room for a minute. And I wasn't really buying it. I wasn't really into the whole thing. And I thought, yeah, this will be funny to do. So I got my phone and I go wandering the halls, and I'm kind of, saying, "Hello, is anybody there? Is anybody there?" And I'm not hearing anything. I'm putting the phone so you can see down the halls and this way and that way, and showing that it's completely empty. And then I walk by the vending machine, and then I go around the corner. I'm going into the bathroom. On the recording, you can kind of hear a little bit of noise before I open the bathroom door, but I didn't notice that at the time. I wasn't hearing anything until I opened the room. It's really difficult to describe the atmosphere inside that bathroom, mainly because I was only in there for a millisecond. I wasn't in there long at all, but I opened the door and I flip on the light, and I've never in my life been inside of a trailer home during a tornado, but that's kind of the closest thing I can think of to describe it. It was this noise, this windy, crazy tornado noise, and yet everything inside the room was completely still. Nothing was moving. I couldn't see anything, and more than the noise, it was like this feeling I got. It was the strangest thing, unlike anything I'd ever felt before. It was like audible anger, hatred. I was unwanted there. I wasn't supposed to be in there. And I felt that instantly the second I walked in the room. And I hurried and flipped my phone shut. I'm a big guy, and I'm not known for being a very fast guy or for moving swiftly. But I made my way down that hall pretty quickly. And I entered the room and slammed the door behind me. And these guys had never seen me quite like that. I was shaking. I was, visibly upset, trembling. They could tell something was wrong. And they said, "What's going on?" And I couldn't even talk. All I could do was kind of shake the phone. And I just kept saying, "You got to watch this. You got to watch this." It was a few minutes before I was able to tell them what had happened, that I had gone into that room and heard that noise. And they were pretty impressed with the tape. They were astounded. Needless to say, none of us left the room again that night. We stayed in for the rest of the night. Over the next little while, of course, the little video, I think it's only a few minutes long, it made the rounds of the office, and pretty soon everybody heard it. They were all talking about it. They were all speculating about what it could be. I was the only one that wasn't participating in this. I was a bit embarrassed, actually. After the initial shock of the experience had worn off, I was kind of embarrassed about the whole thing, that I participated in such a silly activity to begin with, and then my reaction was anything but manly, anything but boss-like. And I kind of wanted the whole thing to go away, but of course it didn't. And at this time, people started talking about Tom again. His name started coming up. Could this be Tom? Is this Tom? Or is it one of the other thousands of people who have died in this building through the years? And nobody knew, but it was all people could talk about for a few days, and then it died down. My friend actually posted the video on YouTube, and all of their family members watched it. One of my coworkers listened to the recording at super slow motion and said they could hear all sorts of funky things in the audio. But myself, I've only watched the video once. It's not something it doesn't interest me. I don't like to see it. And I don't really care about what other noises can be heard. After that day, things got decidedly stranger around the office. It was something that we couldn't ignore anymore. There was all sorts of weird experiences. People would be walking down the halls, and the bubble mirrors that are on the ceiling of hospitals? They'd see themselves walking, and they'd see someone walking behind them, and they'd turn around and there wouldn't be anybody there. My friend Becky felt her hair being tugged on one time. Not pulled hard, just tugged on. Our coworker Joe, he heard voices right behind him while he was sitting in the office saying strange, bizarre words like sterile and breathe. And one day the candy in the candy dispensing machine started rattling like there was a mouse or something inside the candy rattling it, and then the whole dispenser fell over. Marcus, my coworker, had gone into the haunted bathroom to find the big metal garbage can had been emptied and was sitting upside down, balanced on the toilet bowl. So at this point, it felt more like this isn't kind of a general ghost around the hospital. It felt like we were being targeted, like we were specifically being targeted for these experiences. And it felt like there was a checklist. Someone was wanting to make sure that every single person in the office experienced something they couldn't explain, that each one of us was touched somehow by these weird experiences. Some people didn't take it very well. They took it very, very strongly. And in fact, Joey, the one who had been chased into and then out of the bathroom, ended up quitting, as did another rep. They said they just weren't comfortable working in this environment because it had just become so strange. It had become so spooky. And all of us were feeling it, and it seemed to be intensifying. Things came to a head about a few weeks ago. It was actually 2.5 weeks ago. It was a weeknight, and it was kind of a slow night. And so we were all toward the end of our shift. It was during the quiet time. One of my reps gets a call from a doctor, and the doctor says, "What's up with this page you guys just sent me? It doesn't make any sense." And so I get on the call, and I'm trying to figure out what had happened. And he had gotten this page that was just gibberish. None of the words made sense. And while I was trying to deal with that and trying to figure that out, another doctor calls, gets another rep, and has a similar story. This doctor said, "Hey, I got this page, but it's an identical page to one I received 2 weeks ago. This isn't a new case." So I start looking into that, and while I'm doing that, the phones start ringing and ringing and ringing. Pretty soon every line is lit up. All of our reps are on calls from doctors all over the Salt Lake Valley who have received the strangest pages. Some of them were in strange languages, some of them were gibberish, and some were from patients that already passed away or pregnant women who had given birth months ago. it made no sense, and these doctors were getting more and more frustrated and more upset. They couldn't tell what was a real emergency from what was a nonsense page. And so my reps are dealing with these calls while I'm on the phone with our IT department, waking them up, trying to figure out what's going on, and calling the phone companies, calling the paging system companies, and they're all blaming each other. The paging system people were blaming the IT people, and the IT people were blaming the phone companies, and nobody seemed to know what was going on. But it was insane. It seemed like every doctor in the Salt Lake Valley, every doctor in the state was being woken up and receiving these pages, hundreds of doctors calling. It lasted about 45 minutes, and then just as quickly as it started, it was done. The calls just quit coming. And one of my coworkers who has worked at our organization for a long time, she was there during the Charlie Square massacre. I don't know if you remember that in Salt Lake, and during the Salt Lake City tornado, during the Crandall mine disaster. So she's been there for some crazy times, and she said she'd never seen anything like it. We spent days afterwards trying to figure out, the IT team was full-time trying to decide what had happened and how it had happened and how to keep it from happening again, because it was really bad. And no explanation was ever found. To this day, we don't know why those pages were going out, but it was craziness. It was pure chaos. And at that time, I realized that these pranks have gone on long enough. I mentioned earlier I'm a fixer. When there's a problem, I like to fix it. I like to take care of it. And I don't know what's going on here. I don't know why it's going on, but I'm losing good reps from my team. They're quitting. They don't like the environment. We could lose doctors who are not happy with our service because we're doing all this nonsense, sending out crazy pages, and I could lose my job. This is all happening on my shift, on my watch, and I seem incompetent. Worst case scenario, someone could die. We could lose a patient who's not getting the care they need because this stuff's going on. So I'm a fixer, and I think the way to fix this might be to share the story. And that's why I'm telling you this story, Lex. That's why I'm sharing for all your listeners all this dirty laundry, because I want it to end. It's time for it to stop. It's not fun. It's not funny anymore. We just want to be left alone. Please, who's ever bothering us. I don't know if this is Tom or not that's doing it. I don't know if he's listening. I don't know if he can listen. But if it is him, I make my confession, and I apologize to him for not letting him leave that afternoon that he asked to leave. I've lost so many nights' sleep, so much time thought, wishing I could go back in time, wishing more than anything that I could go back in time and let him leave and tell him to leave and say, don't go home, don't go straight to the emergency room, take off, get yourself taken care of because there's something going on in your stomach and it's going to go bad. But I can't do that. What I can do is tell the story, make my confession, make my apology, repent for everybody to see, sit naked and bared in front of everyone and share this story. I don't know if it'll work or not. I don't know if you'll ever be hearing from me again. I hope not. I hope this is the end of it. But that's it. That's all I've got. Thank you for the time, Lex. Thank you for the amazing show. I love the show, and by proxy, I love you for producing it, for providing it for us. And